Democrats and protesters feel they have the people on their side because President Trump lost the popular vote. That's part of it. But if you fight everything with hair-on-fire outrage and cry wolf at every turn, could it lead to a national feeling of, well, outrage fatigue, if there is such a thing? Democratic Senator Chris Murphy nailed it by saying, we cannot respond to everything. You have to decide what to respond to based on what your vision for the country is, instead of just shouting no at everything. Joining me now is Democrat David Burstein and Republican Boyd Matheson. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. David, let me begin with you. We have this concept of outrage fatigue. It gets a little old, and I think whatever that opposition be, people tend to just turn off.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing it right away. I mean, it's been, just as you said, just a few months here, and already it's at fever pitch. You know, Democrats have to actually come up with a strategy if they want to defeat Trump politically. And it's not, they don't have the votes in the Senate, they don't have the votes in the House, they don't have any branches of government. So if they're going to have a strategy to defeat him, it's going to rely on picking specific examples of battles they think they can actually win, not just continuing to say, stop this, stop that, when they can't actually get any results.
Right. But they haven't got that message yet. Boyd, let me ask you, look, you know, I get the sense that they really have learned absolutely nothing, the Democrats, that is, from their defeat in the primary. Look, under President Obama, in those 8 years, they lost over 1,000 seats at the state and federal level. And yet all they can do, it appears, is just to try and shout down and throw up hurdles to the Republican House, Senate, and President without really saying why. It's just in principle. How dangerous is that as a strategy?
It's a ridiculous strategy. It's almost as if they got the strategy off of their shampoo bottle in the shower, you know, where it says lather, rinse, repeat. You lather people up, you get them angry, you get them frustrated, you let them rinse the anger off with a nice protest or a $25 donation, and then you repeat it. But you had one organization raise over $24 million in 48 hours off of just one executive order. And so it's a bad strategy, and really they should have learned from what the Republicans did during the Obama administration. The American people are not an angry people by nature. We get mad, we protest, we get frustrated, but anger is not an agenda, frustration is not a platform, and it seems that the Democrats have learned nothing from their loss in November or what the Republicans failed to do during the Obama administration.
I see David nodding in agreement here. You know, I see the Nancy Pelosi's and I see the old guard of the Democratic Party. Don't you feel like this is time to push the reset button, get some young blood in, and perhaps those that have a better feel for the country, not just the left coast and the right coast, latte-sipping liberals, as they are known, and completely ignoring the flyover states, and it's really come back to bite them.
Well, look, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Democrats here have a golden opportunity. They have 4 years in which, you know, they're not likely to take over the Senate in 2 years or gain more power. They have an opportunity to actually rebuild what is a decimated party, not just at the federal level, but at the state level and the local level.
Who do you blame for that?
I blame, frankly, President Obama to some degree. I blame the Democratic Party. They've had their eye off the ball. They were in power, right, for 8 years and enjoying that. And this is what happens. And the Republicans have to watch out for the same thing, too, by the way, because, you know, the Republican Party still has a lot of challenges that Donald Trump did not solve. And right now, things feel good because they're in power again. But, you know, 8 years from now, they may end up in the same problem again.
Very good point, David, and I'll go to Boyd on that. It does appear that there's fissures and cracks within the GOP themselves. You have the budget hawks are saying, wait a minute, you know, President Trump's wanting to spend like a drunken sailor. We don't want to do that. So there's not always agreement in the Republicans. Can Donald Trump get everyone on the same page?
Yeah, the Republicans better be careful because victory covers a multitude of sins, but it does not remove them. As David rightly pointed out, there's a lot of cracks, and I think it could take just one transportation bill that could completely crack the Republican Party. But also Chuck Schumer has got some challenges on the left. If he pushes these things too hard, he's going to have some of those red state Republicans peeling off. The Joe Manchins of the world are going to say, hey, we can't dial this up to 11 every single time on every issue. And so I think both of the leaders of the political parties better be careful, or the American people may say no to both, and that could lead to a really interesting conversation.
You know, David, I don't think I can ever remember the anger and the aggression from one side after the outcome of an election, to the point where people are getting on Facebook, dinner parties ruined, friendships ruined, and now we're seeing people, you know, protesters shutting down events on college campuses, riots ensue. Why is it? What's wrong? What's gone on in this country that's created this? Others will say, look, Donald Trump, by his rhetoric, created this. But I'm sorry, what we're seeing on the other side is way beyond sour grapes. This is very aggressive.
But it's a really good point, because I think one of the things that's happened over the past 8 years, I mean, 8 years is a long time, particularly in this fast-moving age of technology, right? So you've had a group of people who've come up getting very used to Obama. It seems like Obama had been here forever, frankly, to a lot of Democrats who had a
and
very
Republicans.
exactly, and had a very defined set of values about equality, openness, these big sort of themes that were very clear. And Donald Trump is literally the antithesis of a lot of those values. And I think that's getting really under people's skin, because they've gotten used to accepting that as a premise, and suddenly the entire tone, not just the overall principle, right, not just the issues or the policy positions, but the entire tone of government has shifted overnight. And that's a very, very upsetting thing and disquieting thing to happen to people.
Yeah, it's interesting. Boyd, you know, look, there's a tremendous opportunity, as David said earlier, for the Republican Party, but they can't blow it. They've got to be focused and stay on message. And that's kind of difficult with a president right now who is, let's be honest, unpredictable, unorthodox. How do you see this proceeding?
So I think it's also important to remember that what the American people voted for, more than they voted for a Republican or a Democrat, they voted for disruption. And this is what disruption looks and feels like. We've seen it in every area of our life, from our technology, but it hasn't come to government yet. And so I think between the cabinet nominees that Mr. Trump has put forward, those are all going to be innovative disruptors. And so the American people need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. We need to quit retreating to our safe spaces and to our bubbles. And we also can't let those on either the left or the right dominate things because they're opportunists looking to raise money, or that they're just trying to stir the pot and undermine the other party. And so it's time for a different kind of conversation that I think the American people are ready for. And while this was clearly one of the most polarizing elections in our nation's history, it may actually prove to be the best thing for our civil discourse if we take the next step. If we move forward, Jefferson said it best. He said, we can never let a difference of opinion or policy necessarily equate to a difference in principle. And we need to have some important discussions as a nation. But if we go back to outrage, if that's where we're going to play this game, the worst part of the outrage is it prevents real dialogue, elevated dialogue from happening. And if we don't get there, it's not going to matter who's in power.
Very well said. Hopefully those on the left will get that message as well, so we can actually have debates on college campuses. All right, we're out of time.
Right.
Boyd and David, thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.